Hi everyone, and welcome to my September 2020 budget report. It is long overdue, but because of all of the ups and downs that we had in the fall of 2020, I wanted to make sure I went ahead and recorded our budget reports, because even though I was not actually filming at the time and uploading content for you guys to see our progress, I was still managing our budget and, tracking all of our expenses against our budget. And we were still setting up a budget every month and doing all of those things. We had a lot of ups and downs in the fall of 2020. And I just wanted to be able to show you how we managed it all. And in some ways we did really well, and in other ways, not so much. So we'll start with a September report, and I'll be getting caught up with everything else here soon as well. So first of all, you'll see here, I have our income pulled up here. As always, I've blacked out our individual salaries here. You can see we planned on about $7,400 for September, and we ended up with $7,964. We pulled $1,159 in from sinking funds. I had a little bit come in from the budget bounce from income that I had. And then Owen's Place is Matt's side business. We pulled some income in from there. And my parents paid, I honestly now cannot remember why they gave me $160, but they did. And so anyway, that brought us to $7,964. Now, I will tell you, this is significantly lower than what we normally have to work with. Matt didn't have any pay coming in September because he was still out on his leave of absence that started in the middle of July, and no disability had come in for it. In addition, I was out for most of the month of September. I worked 4 days and then I didn't work again for the rest of the month because I contracted COVID when I was caring for my parents who both got it. And so with my hospitalization, and then I had to come home from the hospital with oxygen. My lungs were really a mess, and it just took me a little while to be able to get back to being able to work. And so I returned to work on October 1st, but I missed most of that income, and I didn't have any disability income come in September. So that left us with $7,964 to work with. And if you take out all this extra income that I pulled in, that takes us down to just over $6,000 is what we had come in. So that was a lot lower than what we normally have. In giving, we planned on $100 and ended up doing $232. In housing, we planned on $1,476 and ended up with $1,477. So we were right on target. We had $1,054 for the mortgage, $135 for gas and electric utilities, nothing for our quarterly water, garbage, sewer, $185 for mobile services, and $101 for internet. In transportation, we planned on $250 and we ended up spending $396 on gas. We were right on target for OnStar, and we had, I can't remember what this $12 was for the Traverse. It was a part, I don't know if it was a windshield wiper or something like that had to be replaced. And we came in at $430, which was $158 more than what we originally planned. The reason why gas was so high here is because Matt was driving all over the place. He was, even though I had to quarantine from him, he was still helping us. Where we live is about 63 or 4 miles away from my parents, and that's my hometown. And so he was coming down a couple times a week, either bringing me things or maybe going grocery shopping and bringing us things so that we had groceries and things like that. So he was down, and then he would just stand out in the yard and I would stand on the porch. I mean, it was September, so the weather was nice. And it was the only time I got to see Matt through all of this. We just really didn't have an opportunity to see each other except these times. And so in my opinion, this was totally worth it. He was putting a lot of miles on the car, spending a lot of time. He was not working at that point in time. He was not well enough to work, but he was able to help us get through this as the three of us had to quarantine in the house and couldn't leave. And it was over the period of it was almost 5 weeks from beginning to end when we realized that my parents had COVID to when I finally finished my quarantine and was able to leave their house and go to my own home. So that's how we landed so high in transportation. In food, you can tell, holy cow, it was a rough month. We were under in groceries. We only spent 408 of the 550 that we planned, but we spent 423 of the 125 that we planned for dining. And that is a reflection of the boys being here by themselves. They ate out a lot. And so we ended up being 157 over in this category. We didn't have any expenses specifically for Henry. And probably I can remove this category. I probably will do that at the end of the year when I reset my budget for the following year. But we didn't have any expenses for him. And then in pets, we had $38 for food, $46 for meds, $632 for the vet, and $15 for other supplies, a total of $732. And as you can see, there were some small things here that weren't expected. $46 was for antibiotics, again, for Bella because she got pneumonia for a third time. $632 was for, 577, I should say, was because we lost Bella. We had to put her to sleep. It was very unexpected. I mean, she had been sick, but we didn't realize how bad it was. We just thought she had another round of pneumonia. And the day that I came home from being gone for 25 days was the day. And she'd really taken a turn for the worse the night before. Matt picked me up at around 8:30 a.m. on that morning instead of coming like he was going to come in the afternoon sometime and get me. He came and got me because he didn't know how much time she had left. So when we got to town, he took me straight to the vet's office and I got to hold her and love on her, and her lips were blue and her tongue was blue. And they just were trying to get her oxygen levels up, and I was just coming home carrying oxygen with me and struggling to breathe. So I knew how hard it was for her and what she was struggling with. So the doctors did everything that they could at the clinic that day. And so they called around 4:30 and told us to come. And when we got there, they recommended that we let her go. And so we called Henry at work and asked him to come so he could say goodbye. And we waited for him, and then we let her go. And it's months afterwards, and I'm still so emotional. That day wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be an amazing day because I got to come home and be with my family finally after being so sick and being away from them. And this is what I came home to. And I will tell you, it had a big impact on my recovery. I really took a dive. And the home health nurse that weekend wanted me to go back to the hospital. It was just really hard. So we lost another pet this year. And so then we were down to one, just Lucy, our cat. And obviously that's had a big impact on our budget. We've had a lot of pet expenses in 2020. When I do my annual to look it up, it'll be interesting to see how much money we actually spent between Bella and Cotton. So we were 677 over in pets. Okay, gathering myself, moving on to insurance. We planned on $810 and we ended up having $988. And this is a reflection of, we didn't have anything come out for, I think, medical and dental in August, and same thing with Matt's life insurance, where that up here. We didn't have any of that come out, and you can see we were over this month on what we planned, and that's because this is what the normal amounts are every month, but we had to pay for August and part of September as well. So that's why we're over in these amounts. So we paid 2 payments for August and 1 for September in the month of September. And so that brought our totals to where we were over by $178 compared to what we planned. In entertainment, we had $20 for streaming and $3 for HP Inc. We're still not getting charged for Cinemark, and we didn't have any family entertainment, so the total was $23 and was under by 40. For the health insurance, for health category, we had $437.50 for flexible spending. We had $33 for the gym and $19 for the for healthcare, for a total of $490, which came in under by $32. In extras, we had $50 for our kids. We had the $99 Instacart renewal, which I use every month, a couple times a month. So this is definitely worth it, especially in the pandemic. I actually started it about 6 months before the pandemic, but I was really glad I knew it and was comfortable with it. And then this was an expense for Matt's business. So it was a total of $161. All of this was covered by sinking funds. We didn't have anything in crap. I forgot about that for September. And then in envelopes, I had $7 in spending that I spent. Matt didn't spend any of his. And we had $218 for household and $72 for miscellaneous, which brought our total to $298, which, as you can see, was $58 over what we planned. And honestly, it's far enough out now, I don't remember what all we spent here, but the fact that I was gone and all that we were going through definitely played into it. In the budget bounce, I had $128 in education and $43 in subscriptions, bringing the total to $172. I forgot about the subscriptions, and the education was a course that came up that I decided to purchase. And again, this was all covered by the budget bounce income that I had been building over the course of the year. So we were over by 158, but it was all covered by funds that we had elsewhere. All right, moving on to savings. You can see here we didn't budget to put much in our savings, and our actual was just as we planned. $45 into Xanthi's account because she comes and does stuff. She cleans our house and does things like that for us. And also, my retirement, we planned on $335 and we ended up putting in $335. Overall, you can see here we didn't end up spending anything out of any of the accounts, including our emergency fund. So here we are in a month when not only do we not have Matt's income, but we also have my income has been reduced as well. And now we are able to get by without having to use the emergency fund for the second month in a row. And we were able to do that because we limited our sinking funds, which you'll see next here. But our total that we have in our liquid accounts is $4,884 at the end of September. So that if we needed to get to that money to help us bridge the gap, we could. And if we move on down to sinking funds here, you can see we plan on doing a little bit more with sinking funds because when I put this together, I didn't know that I was going to be out, that I was going to miss work as well. And so we ended up not doing as much as we planned. We planned on $712 and we only put $391 in, which was for the things that we don't have a choice. These are coming, they're not, and they're coming soon types of things. And so $230 for auto insurance, $80 for our quarterly city utilities, and $81 for life insurance because that's due at the end of the year, and it's a pretty hefty bill, so I can't skip a month on that. So we put $391 in total, and you can see here that we started with $6,269 at the beginning of the month. We pulled $150 out of business travel, we pulled $175 out of healthcare, $89 out of technology, $45 from the budget bounce, and $700 from the vacation fund. This is what we used to bridge the gap so that we didn't have to touch our emergency fund. And so that left us with $5,503 in our sinking funds at the end of the month. So still in a really good position considering we've had, a significant reduction in income. All right, next up is our debt section, and we have so many debts that it's broken into 3 different sections. The first one is our 100% paid off debts. The second section is those that are charged off, and the third section is those that we're actively paying. So First of all, let's talk about the difference in the colors in the font. Matt wanted at the very beginning to designate his debt versus mine. And the way that I figured out to do that was to change the font color. So I made mine pink and then his is black. So all of these are gone forever. They are 100% paid off. They come to $31,502. And then this charged off section is, you'll note, and there's various pink and black in here, but this charged off section happens to be a whole bunch of old credit cards that Matt had. And many of them were, not many, about half of them were from before we met and others were from since we've been together. And they are long gone and charged off. And so, or in collections, or, they're multiple steps out from where we started. And so we are not focused on these right now. We will deal with them at a later date. Then we have our actively paying section. And I'll just run through these really quick. So the first one is this ambulance bill that I had been paying for almost a year, and the insurance company finally paid. I had to call so many times to get that claim paid. And I did have a viewer who left me a comment in a previous month, maybe August or July, stating that that ambulances are always out of network and they're always going to get billed that way, and you have to, go through the process. So anyway, they paid, so I didn't have to put anything in, and that balance went to $0. So then we have my Care credit card. We paid $50, Capital One card $25, private student loan that has both me and Matt on it, $50. My Lowe's card was $190. Our HELOC was $200. Our car payment is $550. No child support was paid during this month because Matt didn't receive a check. And our family loan was $200. And then we didn't pay anything to student loans while it's being deferred. We have not been paying anything. Before we were putting it into the emergency fund, but now that we're in the situation that we are, we're not putting it in the emergency fund either because we need it to live on. So our total debt paid was $1,265. And if you look over here, we started the month with $184,435 as our total debt, which adds all of this up. And we ended up at $182,953. You can see where we paid we paid a couple $100 in interest. And let's just go down to the totals and take a look here. So our total expenses were $7,875 and our total income was $7,964. That left us with $89 left over. And that's okay. I didn't even, because I was so sick and everything, I didn't get to finalize this part of it. I started it and then things changed throughout the month and I didn't get to, I don't know what I did wrong here. I think I probably forgot to change a formula up at the top that would stabilize that cell. But anyway, it shows that I didn't budget for $789. And I honestly, it's so far out now, I don't know what I did wrong. And I decided I'm not going to try and figure it out now. Normally we do a zero-based budget where every dollar is accounted for. And this was just a reflection of me being incredibly sick and not able to keep up with all of the details. I did the best I could based on what I had. I wasn't working, and like I told my boss, I have never not cared about life as much as I did for the 3 weeks that I was so sick in September. My symptoms started on August 31st. And the first couple of days were manageable. Even the third and fourth day just felt like a really bad bout of bronchitis, honestly. But by Saturday, which was my sixth day of symptoms, I was really, really sick. And then 3 days later, I went to the hospital. So just with all of that going on, not all of this got addressed, but we still managed to pay off $1,481 of debt. Like, we killed it off. It's gone forever. That's the net after interest is being taken into account. And we hit the $80,000 mark. $80,404 is the total amount that we've paid to debt so far of our original $263,358. So that puts us at 30.5% is done and gone forever. And this number, this 20.3%, this is this number, this 1265 over here, divided by our regular salaries that came in. We paid 20% of that to the to debt this month. So yeah, September was definitely a challenge, and in many ways, my parents were still recovering, and I wasn't able to help them. I felt terrible for my mom, but we still managed to do okay financially, and I'm so incredibly happy for that. The things that came in the months after, in October and November, there were some lows, some really low lows, and there were some highs. And I'll be sharing all of that in my other budget reports. But September, it just, things got tough in August, and they got tougher in September, and it didn't get much better in October. So I'll be back to share what October looked like as well, and continue this saga that was, COVID really impacting our family in so many ways, not just physically with the illness, but, mentally for everybody who was impacted. I mean, it was hard on Matt and the kids, and yeah, that's another video for another day to talk about that. But, anybody who cared about us, it was hard on them to watch us go through this. It was really hard for me to watch my parents suffer. And so when you're going through, when you're going through a physical illness, you've got physical stuff, you've got emotional and mental things that you're dealing with, and then there was the financial stuff that was going on. But the one thing that we did right, you guys, that I really, if you stayed to this point, the one thing I will tell you that I did that set us up for success here was I had almost every bill on autopilot. So I have direct deposit into our accounts for, anything that's coming in. And then our bills are set up on auto pay. And so the bills, just the regular bills, I don't mean expenses like buying groceries and things like that. I mean the bills that have to be paid, they were all paid, and I didn't have to think about it. All I had to do was come in here and plug it in that it got paid. So that is something you can really do for yourself. It's a blessing. It's hard to get used to, somebody taking money out of your account automatically, but when emergencies happen like this and you're unable to take care of things, it can really, really exacerbate the stress in your life if things get missed because you have this other thing going on. So this was one thing I didn't have to worry about. Our bills were all being paid. And like I said at the beginning, we managed to get through this month without having to touch our emergency fund. Yes, we had to dip into our sinking funds again, but I will take that all day long to save our emergency fund. So that was September for us, and I will be back soon with our October budget report. That's all I've got for you today. Until next time.